So today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the early conversations that you all had with Daniel, who's sitting across the table from me, and Kevin at the sales meeting. So about 4 weeks before the sales meeting in San Diego, we started to develop a little bit kind of deeper dive, a new kind of sales program on some of the best practices that we've learned, in addition to these 12 sessions. And it all kind of culminated into working with the interviews that I did, getting feedback from Kevin since he's been in the road more. We talked to Anthony. Daniel was able to relay a bunch of experiences, and Daniel had huge input into this session. And we kind of combined all of those different inputs into today's session. So similar to last session, it also combines some of the things that we've learned straight from the architects themselves and straight from the installers. And this session, converting interest into spec, right? So you kind of have a fish on the line, you're getting some nibbles, and how do we reel that in all the way to shore and kind of throw in the live well? The headline here is great projects start with better conversations. So this wasn't just a couple of us sitting in a conference room having no relation to what it's actually like out there in the field. We took years worth of our experience. We've learned so much over the last 2 years with Mode that we were able to put into this session. We learned stuff from the industry that's continued to develop all over the place to help develop this program. We also looked at some past projects, and I'm not going to go through these, and a few of these were shared in your San Diego session, but these are just a handful of the projects that we actually use to help develop today's training. So Katie's Bank and Trust project was a wood ceiling. The big thing here was understanding the flexibility of veneers and the different wood products that we have. Linco's Nabholz project, obviously the value, giant project, but this took collaboration, really intense collaboration. There was sound modeling, there was consults. We helped them with layout, all sorts of everything, and proved out that what we were recommending were going to help solve their problems. And then the last one I randomly grabbed, I really like this one because it speaks to the custom products and custom applications that we can do that a lot of other manufacturers won't do. So we've been talking, we've had kind of different people come to us over the past few years talking about vertical baffles. And we had kind of tried and didn't really come to anything we like. And it was really Peter's project that helped push this along. And from this, we were able to develop an all new product plus win a really cool project. So from there, quick recap. What actually won all of those projects? Well, it's a lot about what we've learned over the last 8 sessions. Someone asked the right question at the right time. They uncovered a real concern or a risk or an issue somebody was having. They provided proof that we and you yourselves as the rep were the right solution to help with that. We allowed the customer to either visualize it in images or drawings or even in their mind's eye, right? They could visualize us helping them be successful. And in every pass, every communication we had, we always made sure that there was a next step that we could deliver for them. And so out of all the 8 sessions, that's what we're trying to do. And it kind of really culminates in this session here. So, everything that we've covered has been preparing you to recognize opportunities and help you move those conversations forward. The elephant in the room. You already know how to sell. So we don't, in any of these sessions, talk about like kind of the basics of selling and salesmanship and those sorts of things. So while more technical information or detailed information can make us more confident, it can also have the ability to confuse people. It can confuse us as we're trying to learn, and it complicates things. And at some point altogether, you or your customers or anybody in this relationship might just reject something altogether because it's just too much. There's too much weight. There's too much to try to know and learn and feel like they can control. And I guess my side note there is, we were all part of mode training, and we have new folks coming in for mode training every few months. And we started to replace some of those really deep technical dives into this session, talking a lot about what we're going to talk about today, and away from, this baffle, which looks very similar to this other baffle, is a 0.92. This one is a 1.0, or this is the difference between a spear clip and an impaler clip. So there's tons of different examples out there. But what today is focusing on is just more practical tools in training, other than just trying to become, like a dictionary of data. And really, that's what all 12 parts of this year's kind of training is focused on. Let's get away from all of the different numbers and facts and certifications and some of that stuff, which can be helpful. But let's talk about some of the behaviors and the things that are being experienced in field. Whether it's, oh, we're getting really detailed questions on plans. I'd love to understand more of how those work, right? Those are things that are coming from the field that we're tackling in these 12-part sessions. So, Daniel focuses, of course, on the technical things that are coming up. And, what we focus on in the other 6 sessions, like here today, is what to notice, what to look for, what to ask, what concerns are there, what tools or proofs do we have at our disposal to make people more confident in us, when and how to utilize your teammates in Loveland, where Daniel and I are. We love helping and have a wealth of experience, and when and how you bring us in we know impacts your close rate and the total estimate value. And then what are some of the best steps if you do have time with an architect or an installer? So, acoustics just gives you another kind of arrow in your quiver. It's just another opportunity. It's another value proposition for your customers. And, we've learned stuff the hard way over the last 2 years. And whatever we've learned that's what we're covering today. So your teammates that surround you, we are all trying to reduce risk. And we've talked about this multiple times. We're trying to reduce the risk of the unknown for you as the rep. And then we're also reducing the risk for our specifiers. So you need to be equally as comfortable having the conversations and talking about the services and talking about the products as what we want to express then to our architects. So you align to the design and reduce uncertainty through collaboration and conversations. And your teammates, the team that surrounds you, so Daniel and myself and Anthony and Kevin and Randy and all of that team, they reduce risk as far as kind of the technical and the execution risk. Confidence isn't built by memorizing more facts. That's what we learned over the last 2 years and from the mode training in Loveland. Confidence is built by seeing projects succeed and solving real problems and knowing that the team around you is going to help you when things do get complicated. So with all that, we developed the Advise framework. And when you were all in San Diego, we made a nice little 1-pager front and back to help you with that. So we're going to ask some questions today. So, pop it in chat, come off mute. And, we technically gave you all the answers to this quiz in San Diego. So we hope that we'll get some really good responses here. We call it, being either on Daniel's team or being a sales rep, become the trusted advisor. And so we used Advise then as our kind of memory device on the proper steps, or the likely steps, I should say, that you're going to take in order to be more successful. So what is a trusted advisor? It's being consultative. It's solving problems. It's leaving your clients in a better place after you've talked to them than before, whether that's at the end of the project, middle of the project, before the project. It's providing that value. And we do this by asking questions, educating people, providing real solutions, not just products that meet everyone's needs. So we tailored the framework around the word advise, and a pattern started to emerge in the different interviews that I did with this process. So it wasn't the reps who were just asking question after question, tons of questions. It was reps asking certain questions at certain times. And we talked a little bit about this 2 weeks ago. And that's why, and that's how this program came to be. So we didn't just invent a framework. All we did was organize some of the common behaviors that we see out in the field that are making people successful. All right. Advise A, polling the audience. What does A stand for?
Ask.
Appointment.
Ask. To expand a little bit, ask to understand. You know, that ask might be, tell me about a project where you used acoustics or maybe even millwork, and what were some of the challenges that happened? And then maybe they come back and they say, you know, I can't tell you the last time we used acoustics. It's not really something that we do. And they shut you down, right? Well, we keep digging, we keep diving into that. What does that mean, right? You know, some of you might know like the old root cause analysis strategy, the 5 whys. Typically, if you ask why 5 times to a question and keep digging, you're going to get to the root cause of it and be able to help solve what the major underlying issue is. So we're not pitching a product, we're just asking to understand. So we start with questions, we don't start with products. You know, if you do start with the products, you know, what does that express to the people that you're talking with? Well, I guess what that kind of says is you're like every other rep out there. Hey, I have this new pattern. Hey, I have this new material. Hey, I have X. But we're just trying to learn about them, and we're trying to learn about their projects.
Brock, that question you asked, tell me about a time, or tell me about the last time you specified acoustics and what was the challenges. Why would you go that deep into that question?
Well, it's interesting because I ask this question quite a bit when I'm doing CEUs, and it's very hard to elicit a reaction and get someone just to speak right up. And typically they try to defer and not kind of allow us to go a little bit deeper. But what I've done before is say, oh, interesting. So you kind of just rely on ceiling tiles and chairs and some of the carpeting, some of the kind of the basics. So when you're doing that, how do you know that that's solving the problem? And almost every single time they go, well, that's just kind of how we've always done it. And that allows me to lead into some of the later letters in this framework of starting to provide our value and our differentiators. So it really unlocks a way for you to more organically talk about how we can help them. Do you want to add anything to that, Daniel?
Yeah, just, you know, when you ask that, when you ask about their pain, I almost promise you when you say, hey, what were the biggest challenges you had? They're going to have something, and it might, maybe they don't do acoustics, but you can relate it to a different product. What was the last new product that you specified that you'd never specified before? What challenges did you have there? They're almost always going to be like, oh my gosh, this supplier couldn't deliver on time, or the samples that they sent didn't even come close to the, like, they're going to have something that they had an experience with that was so bad, right? And that starts to create a bond between the two of you. You can understand it, acknowledge it, and then that also tells you what challenges are going to be in your road to getting this spec, right? So if their big thing is, oh, the samples that we gotten didn't even match what they finally delivered, and it was just so off. You know that's going to be their sticking point, right? Like, you know, that's going to probably be the thing they want to know the most, and then I have to solve for, right? So by asking that, like, really open and get them talking about pain that they've had, it lays out what you need to solve for them. You don't have to, it removes all that guesswork of what do I need to do to solve this and earn this back. So,
and I love your example of telling me about the most recent product or manufacturer new product or manufacturer you specified. What you're learning is and to your point, Daniel, what it took for them to make that leap of faith. They're giving you the answers to the problem when you ask that question. The last time I asked that in a CEU, they said it was client driven. So the person building out the building, paying for the space, was starting to get more intimately involved in selecting products. They weren't leaving it to the architect. And that unlocked a whole separate side conversation with me and the architect about managing the client and allowing us to do what I call sell through. Like, I want you, Mr. Architect, to be the conduit to your client, and I will help you have those conversations. You just tell me what you need. Is it budget related? Is it science data? Is it white papers? And so I kind of already have the puzzle already starting to come together. All right, Daniel. D, what is D?
You want me to answer? I thought you were going to have them answer.
Diagnose. So we ask and then we diagnose. This is about understanding and clarifying. You know, this is part of kind of that 5 whys. You ask that opening question to get in the door, and then the diagnose section is going a little bit deeper. It's that probing for friction. It's seeing what pressures that they have, what timing are they looking for, trying to uncover their fears, things like that. And this is like where that root cause analysis, the 5 whys. You know, I could come up with, I don't know, 6 or 8 possible pain points that I hear quite regularly. Does anyone want to bring up a pain point that they hear in the field from architects? So either come off mute or in the chat. I can start with one. Oh, go ahead.
Not having control of who gets the job and ultimately what gets purchased.
I love that. Daniel, how would you solve that? How would you respond to that?
Well, it's 2-part, right? Like the architect does have some control there. I feel like that's definitely a pain point you have, Suzanne. And to a certain degree, architects as well, because once they select the GC, but then the GC then selects the subs, right? And we can help solve that from an architect standpoint by just helping them learn how to specify. And maybe they're not allowed to put no substitutions on things, but if we can go and differentiate our product in ways that that allow us to specify ourselves and not have alternatives, right? Like instead of just wood acoustic panels, you can go a little bit deeper in talking about an all-encompassing, no backing needed, no subwall, no acoustic blanket. Like you can go a little bit deeper in there to where now all of that wood acoustics out there that's just MDF with holes through it can't be substituted, because that's not that's not part of the spec, right? Because the other companies can't do what we can do with the wood acoustics as far as an all-encompassing. There's one out there, but it reduces the amount of companies that can actually bid on that job. So really helping them write the spec, really helping them write it in a way that it's ironclad and it doesn't allow for substitutions. That's how we help the architect make sure that subs aren't just swapping things out.
The easiest possible pain point, which is why our industry and products exist, is my pain point is the reverberation is too much in the spaces that I design. That's an easy one. But you could hear things about durability or privacy, or acoustics are ugly. The aesthetics aren't there. They're hard to put in spaces because they're so garish. I just don't have a lot of experience with acoustics. I'm so terrified of getting it wrong. There could be tons of pain points that you can uncover through this diagnose phase. So a customer states, well, we worked with somebody that didn't quite solve the problem. Well, then the next ask in the diagnosis, well, why do you think that was the case? Why do you think it didn't solve the problem? What did you do beforehand to make sure it was? And then what didn't end up getting delivered? Things like that. And that just unlocks so much more opportunity for you to talk about things that, to Daniel's point, that you can embed in that spec, embed in those plans. If you embed a custom applications and installation consultation into the plans, There's a lot of manufacturers out there who won't do that, who won't change up the hardware or change the locations of hardware, do things like that, that we can do. And so then that's going to keep you in the spec. You know, it can also be like aspirational is, you know, we need a manufacturer who understands that the look of the space is just as important as the function of the space. And so you can solve those pain points for them with the different differentiators that we have. What about it costs too much? You know, acoustics are expensive, or specifically maybe mode is too expensive. And maybe that's the time that we talk about how we ran an analysis a few years ago, and then it costs 150% more to put acoustics into a space after the fact. Right? That's a perfect time to talk about things like that. Or did the manufacturer help understand the difference between good, better, and best? You know, there are things that we've done in field, like choose a specific on center for baffles so that they could go in and add more baffles later if it didn't perfectly solve their problem. We said, you know what? Do 24-inch on centers right now and put 50 of these in the space. And go 6 months, go 12 months. And if the people out in your open office are still complaining, guess what? Let's just move to 12-inch on centers. And so we can pre-plan for things like that. So you can have a best approach, a good, better, best approach, if you unlock concerns about budget. So you can ask questions like, how do you know what products to put and where to put them? And start understanding and listening to the different pain points and the risks that they think are ahead of them. You know, you're going to look at performance gaps and value engineering pressure and installation complexity. There's just tons of different things out there that you're going to help them with.
One thing that I will say is very important. Brock's kind of spilling over into the next one. In this phase of diagnose, we don't want to start solving those problems right now. We want to keep digging and diving to get to the root and the root cause on the bottom of that, right? Which leads us into our next phase, which is V and validate. This is where you start to really solve those issues. You connect their pain that they have that you just diagnosed. You did the deep dive. You found out what really bothers them and what we need to solve for. Instead of just saying like, we've got you covered, you actually connect that to the value, one of our value differentiators, right? Which there's a list of some of the differentiators on that one sheet. But this is where you kind of say, hey, we get that. We had a project where they designed it, they said this is what we need, and we put that in the space, and it wasn't enough, and we had to come back and figure that out, right? And this is how, like, we learned from that. So now this is what we do on the front end, right? So you validate, you connect that pain in real scenarios where here's how we help solve that pain point, right? You connect it to the value that we bring.
And that was like interesting in my 6 interviews. And if you think of kind of helping validate, and then also maybe objections, is almost every rep that I talked to thought of these deep dives and uncovering fears and risks and challenges as opportunities to get into the spec and earn the project, not as issues to overcome. So it's really about tying our strengths directly to their pain, their challenge, their needs, whatever that might be. So we focus on outcomes and services in our differentiation. And the product is just how we do that. So open it up to the crowd. What is one of our differentiators?
Consultation calls.
Yep. Free
I don't know any
consultative
other
support.
companies that do it.
I say being able to self-VE ourselves.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly right.
Wood.
Yeah. We have way more wood options than anyone.
Yeah, wood plus just the breadth of the 3 different offerings, I think is big for us. Flexibility is huge.
Also tying into that wood is single supplier, right? Not just with wood, but across the 3 product lines, but specifically with wood, you can have all of the wood on your project match and be the same, from your acoustics to your hard panels to your direct to drywall, right? Having that flexibility is a huge differentiator, as well as just overall, you can get your fabric, your felt, and your wood from us.
It's also before and after audio of what the space might sound like. It's modeling and oralization. There's all sorts of different things. And they can all solve different pain points of our customers.
One thing to note here, and we always try to do this, is when you're validating, and the long version of this is validate with value, right? That ties to connecting the pain to the value that we bring. We're not trying to say, hey, we're better than everybody else. We're trying to say, hey, we've experienced that, and so we do this, which solves that, right? So it doesn't come across as like, oh, we're just the best company or we're better than those companies. It's not like, hey, we understand that pain point. We've had customers in the past and projects in the past where we've had the same thing. So here with these differentiators is how we solve that, right? This differentiator solves that pain. And so it comes across differently, and it gives them the confidence to be willing to specify a new product.
And in many cases, it's our service that is actually the product. Your collaboration, Daniel's help, Randy's support, whoever it might be, the team around you is the big differentiator, and it's the product. So every differentiator we offer, whether it's consults or modeling or samples, shop drawings, text, whatever it is, it exists for one reason, and that's to protect the project outcome. We're there to protect people. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing I've done, I've had success with is, as you mentioned, is doing the consultations. And how I approach it is, pretty much that helps take the guesswork out for you. Let us solve it for you by doing this sound modeling. And then we come up with a plan, and then if it's too much, if it's over budget, we can start subtracting items out of the space to meet your budget. But let us take that pain away from you and help you solve it. And there's no guesswork because we're the professionals. And that seems to, and that opens up the whole of the conversation.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. The next is I, and this is kind of your proof. What does I stand for? Grab your cheat sheets.
I'm just start calling them people.
Great.
Illustrate. So what do you think it means to illustrate the outcome, right? We're not taking a Sharpie and white paper and illustrating anything. This is your proof. So illustrating can come in multiple forms. We know that using pictures and even video is the best way to make tangible what you're proposing is going to help them. So this is, I have the answers for you, and now I can prove that I have the answers for you because of this project or these 3 projects were similar and we helped solve it. So did it solve the acoustic issues, the design issues, timing constraints, budget constraints? And usually those conversations start to happen with images. So if you have installations in your territory, get those pictures, have them on your computer, have them on your iPad, whatever it might be. You could print off a book from Kinko's, I don't care. But those pictures help you tell that story and also remember the story. And also it helps engage your architects to ask questions about those projects by seeing those images as well. So this is your tools of proof. There are other tools other than pictures, layout concepts, renders, finish and material options, comparable installations when it comes to hardware and installation. Proof can be the acoustic modeling, even for a different project. Maybe it's not the acoustic modeling for their current space, but you can show them the acoustic modeling of an old space and how accurate it was. I think we did one recently and it was within like 15% of the professional acoustician. That's really damn good. And if you can show them that project or relay that anecdote, it's proof that what we're doing solves problems. It's not, to Daniel's point, saying, no, we're just better. They can make that conclusion. We just tell them what we did.
The important thing here to illustrate, a lot of times we're going to go to like pictures and visuals and samples and things like that. But it's more than that. Illustrate also includes the stories, talking about projects that we've done in the past. And this is where we all need to do a little bit better job of sharing the success stories and the challenges that came with those, and creating more white papers and creating case studies and things like that to share across, so that maybe you don't have a story about a project that directly relates to their problem, but someone else does. If we don't know that, right, we can't use that story. But we all need to do a little bit better job, and we're working on that, of getting these stories and these case studies out there. But the story of how a solution solved a problem is as powerful as the pictures that you could send. So,
and these images and stories, you know, they evoke emotion. Seeing is believing for these folks. And, you know, images and stories create speed, they create clarity, they create trust. You know, there's that old sales adage that people shop with their head and buy with their heart, I think it is. This is kind of a little bit of that gut heart selection. Earlier, the other three, ADV, are about logic almost. And they go, yeah, that's logical. Theoretically, I think you could help me solve this issue. This is really about converting that logic into true belief that we are the perfect partner for them. S is secure. Dan, you want to talk about secure the alignment a little bit?
yeah. So this is where you align their project with our products, right? So the full version is secure alignment. So we've asked them questions, we've diagnosed their pains, we've validated the value of our product, we've illustrated everything, and now it comes time to, hey, this is your space. We're in let's get an alignment here, right? We're securing this specification. And a lot of this can come together with like questions, right? There's two questions that one of them we kind of call a golden question, right? It is with everything we've talked about today, or no, it's not with everything. It's sorry, I'm trying to remember this off the top of my
How
head.
comfortable are you specifying our solutions?
Yeah,
Everything we've talked about.
how comfortable are you specifying our product for your project? And if they go, well, you know, I'm just not sure, there's some other things, then you follow up with like, what do I need to do to earn this specification? Right? Just ask them point blank. Hey, you're on the fence. What do we need to do to earn this? Let us know. Right? So it's aligning everything that their goals with what we can deliver, and making sure the right product is there to get them comfortable enough to specify our product in there, right? And you can start easier than that. Like, does the solution we've talked about accomplish your goals? Right? Like, if it does, okay. So what do you need from what do you need from me to specify this product? I need a specification document, 3-part spec. Cool, right? Like, you can ask them exactly what is it that we need, and you can align there. Also, if there are any other issues or pain points that haven't been discussed, because that can happen. Sometimes you get down a rabbit hole with one of them, and we forget about this other pain point, or they don't even bring it up because you start talking about their biggest pain point, but they also have this other one that they're concerned about. At this point, now they can say, you know what, the other issue that we have is budget or timing or lead times or whatever it might be, right? This is going to uncover any other problems that haven't been discussed yet. Any other hesitations that they have that we haven't talked about yet? Because it's hard to dodge that question. Hey, what do you need from me to specify our product? Well, I just need time to figure it out. Okay, maybe that's true, but it's a hard question to dodge. Like they're gonna be like, well, everything looks great. Cool. All right, I'm expecting a spec now. All right, like,
And there are different versions of kind of this section. I also think of this kind of, secure the alignment as giving you and your customer a brief moment to pause and make sure you've covered everything and no one feels like they're maybe rushing a little bit faster than they should be.
no.
It's a quick pause, right? So, is there anything that still makes you uncomfortable? It's kind of a different form of what Daniel asked. It just reframes it. How does this compare with what you originally were considering or what you originally envisioned, right? It gets them to take a step back and be a little bit reflective and make sure that when you leave, your name is going in that spec.
And I do apologize. I also did what Brock did earlier and combined this with the next one, which is E. Does anybody know what E is? Let's see. Who do I got here? I'm going to call on somebody. Love this. Elsa. Do you know what E stands for?
I do not.
Okay. Anyone want to help Elsa out?
Embed.
Yay!
So embed, that's embedding ourselves into the project, earning that spec, getting us in there in a way that limits the ability to be value engineered. And that's where you really ask for the project, you ask for the next action. What else do you need? Like that's kind of part of securing and embedding. Like, okay, we're aligned, this product's going to work. What do you need from me to put this in your specification and make sure that we don't get value engineered out?
And when we first started it was embed the spec, right? How do you get in the spec? I made a slight alteration this morning and kind of changed it a little bit to embed the next step, get to the next yes, which ultimately gets you to embed the spec. So the reality is it's not always about just the spec at the end, and rarely are you going to get a call that says, hey, just to let you know, tomorrow I'm going to be embedding you into this spec. It doesn't really work like that. But just getting them to that next yes gets them to embed you without them having to make kind of that final call, that final decision. It's just a no-brainer. It's almost like a non-negotiable that you are going into those plans, into those drawings, into those specs. So that next yes might be a consult or plans or samples or just getting a verbal acknowledgement that they have faith and trust in you to help solve their acoustic problems. And that all ultimately gets to embed the spec. It could be budget pricing. It could be providing an acoustic model. Or just saying, hey, do you mind if I follow up with you on X date? I'd love to see how you're getting along, right? Just embedding that next step. And we try to never leave those collaborations and conversations without having who's doing what next. And this is the kind of the crucial missing piece, because without it, the secure alignment can end as just a pleasant conversation. Yep, I think we're aligned. That sounds like a good plan. Well, we also know that plans and hopes aren't a strategy, right? We need to be in the drawings with our differentiators in value, and we need to be in the spec. Now, the confident closing question, what I call the perfect question.
Again, I jumped ahead, so I apologize.
With everything you've learned, how comfortable are you specifying our solution on your next project? That is an appropriate question in meeting one. The first time you ever meet somebody and you do a CEU, you're updating a library and you're kind of talking. And you might be 8 months into helping them solution. And it might be the right time to ask this or ask this again. This is an excellent question to start unlocking some of those deeper conversation. And this question seeks to do four things. It surfaces any hidden objections that they don't even know that they had. And that's a big component to this training, is you're helping them along this timeline before they even know that they're about to encounter a challenge or an issue or a risk or a fear. Because you've been doing this for so long and we've captured so much data and have so many success stories that we know what is likely coming down the pipeline for them. So it's about hidden objections. It reveals their trust level. Well, it might work for a project. Okay, that's good to know. It might work. Let's say we're at a 70% trust. And then you can start unpacking what they need to in order to start earning more trust. It confirms how close they are to writing a spec, and it ultimately drives those next steps of getting to that yes, that next yes that we've talked about. You know, it's at this stage, you know, kind of secure, and then it's also at this end stage where you're locking up that spec that you're going to encounter potential objections. It's on that one pager we printed for you. We're going to go through it here real quick. I know we're running out of time. We have about 10 minutes left. These are some of the most common objections. And we're going to talk about ways that we've responded that have been successful. It's expensive, which can also mean that it's going to get cut anyway or value engineered out. We're cautious about complex solutions and or new suppliers. Why should we trust you? Or why should we trust a product that maybe no one else has used before? Why are we going to trust the new cloud stack if you just launched it? Will this hold up in high traffic spaces? This is largely related to wood. We get that a lot. We kind of already talked about this one. I've just always specified ACT, and there's 16 people in this space and they help reduce sound, and we're going to throw some rugs down. Or no, we don't really have any projects right now that need acoustics. Thanks, though. So how do we respond to these? How do we respond? I'm going to open it up to, will your product hold up in high traffic spaces? Who wants to speak up? How do you respond to that?
It's expensive, usually getting value engineered. So if you go back in later, after you realize you really did need the acoustics, it could be 4 times the cost.
Yeah. You know, like one of my responses when I've been in CEUs before is that's why we do all the consultations and different levels of modeling, because we are going to be 100% sure that it's going to solve the problem. So yes, it might be a little bit more expensive, but we also know it's the right answer.
And part of that also comes to, too expensive means a lot of different things. It's outside their budget. That one, we've got to figure out a way to value engineer ourselves. It's outside the budget. We don't have that kind of funds for this, right? But it's too expensive compared to what, right? That's another question. Like, it's too expensive compared to what? If it's not outside your budget, it's just more than you wanted to pay, but it's still within the budget. What are we comparing it to, right? Which then comes down to like also that the alternative is less expensive, but what does it do? How does it perform, right? Like we've talked a lot with, the traditional wood acoustics out there that's MDF, holes drilled out of it. You're never going to get the acoustic performance that you get from those with our panels. We have case study after case study that kind of shows that. And so it's more expensive than that. Okay, does that solve your problem though? Well, not quite. So you have to add in other material elsewhere. Now you don't have to do that. You can just use this product that might be more expensive, but it's going to solve the problem on its own. You don't have to buy more material elsewhere or figure out other solutions, right? So it's too expensive means a lot of different things, right? And it's not just always, this is outside of our budget. A lot of times it correlates to some of these other things like perceived value and compared to an alternative. But also you always want to kind of bring up it's expensive, but it's not as expensive to have to go back and treat this space again after it's already been built. Lynn, go ahead.
Oh, this is a time earlier than later is when we work with you on consultation with the client is to provide them with good, better, and best solutions. And then I even will invite them or say, we'll do another consultation with the client after we've like worked out the details amongst ourselves with the design team. We can do another consultation with the client. So you, Brock and Daniel, the experts, can help us sell the concept on why, the value, what is the value. And then when you give them the good, better, and best, then they get to choose too how they want to proceed.
No. Yep. And one thing I will say to that, we still do some of the good, better, and best. But what we're trying to move towards, just throw this out there for you guys, is we're trying to move towards, instead of good, better, best, it's the perfect solution and the cost effective solution, right? And just giving them two options. Lots of studies have shown that when you give more than two options, it creates this paralyzation feeling. It creates a lot more work on our end. And a lot of times when you come to the good, better, and best, it doesn't always, performance, cost, and aesthetics is not always the same good, better, and best, right? And so one might be the best performance, but it doesn't align with being the best but in terms of budget or aesthetics, right? So it's really hard to do truly a good, better, and best. And so we're kind of just trying to move towards two options of like, hey, here is our true recommendation for a full solve. And here's how you treat the problem on a budget. And we give them those two options. And one of them is, because to truly solve is always going to be more expensive. And because truly solve encompasses the acoustics and the aesthetics, right? And then the next option is going to be, here's how you do it. If that's outside of your budget, here's how you do it, where you sacrifice a little bit on performance and you sacrifice a little bit on aesthetics.
And yeah, I think best for me means the best that they can do right now with all of the constraints and pressures that they're juggling. They might need class A instead of class B, or it could be timeline, it could be material, it could be so many different things, especially with all these new certifications and BABA compliance and all this different stuff. They are juggling so much that the perfect is different than the best. Both are good solves though. So these are just our responses to these questions. It's expensive. Smart design and with the right data is going to save you later. And we're one supplier. And so we can protect you all the way through, even if you do want to change or different budget pressures pop up. We simplify complexity. So yeah, maybe we are a new supplier to you, or maybe this is a new product and you've already used us in the past, but we can help with drawings and renders and all the minute details so you can focus on what is important to them. Let us handle all the back stuff. And plus we have all these great studies and white papers and things that we're going to help solve the problem. We design for durability without sacrificing acoustic or aesthetic intent. Of course, we have direct to drywall. We also have MDF panels. We have impact resistance on our fabric panels. So there's always a solve for that, but it's definitely something that comes up specifically with wood. Finishes alone are not an acoustic strategy. Again, like we said, hope and a plan is not a solve. And so rarely, if ever, do those things come with any sort of analysis or modeling to see if they're actually working. And we're going to help them do all that. And we can also take into account those materials in addition to ours. So we can model it out with with ceiling tiles and rugs in addition to some of our acoustic solutions. We don't have any projects right now. This is the one that used to shut me down all the time and I never knew how to respond to it. And it wasn't until later, and it's something that we said at the beginning of this 12-part program, was this program seeks to help you earn projects 3 through 5. If you visit enough people over the next year, you're going to accidentally happen upon 1 or 2 acoustic projects, whether you want to or not. They're going to fall in your lap. 3 through 5 are difficult because that's starting to gain that momentum. You're starting to trust the team that surrounds you, you're starting to trust the products, and you're starting to really speak confidently to all the services and solutions that we have. So now how I respond to this is, oh yeah, no worries. I know you're extremely busy. What kind of business are you trying to earn over the next year or 2? Is it similar to what you've had in your portfolio, or are you transitioning to identify new industries? And you start opening up conversations like that, and they say, well, we do a lot of multi-unit residential, and a lot of those now over the past 5 years have started to have engagement spaces and restaurants in these different condos and apartment complexes and pool halls and bowling alleys. And now we're trying to get in hospitality. You go, oh my God, that's amazing. I have 10 years worth of experience in hospitality. And in fact, that's exactly where we've kind of made our, that's where we've seen the most success. And I would love to share with you some images and stories on the different things that we're able to do for hospitality environments. And by the way, we've also worked with XYZ, the biggest, restaurateur in America, whatever that might be, right? It unlocks just that more conversation so that when you leave that, they go, holy crap, Lynn is going to be our go-to, because not only does she understand acoustic and services, but she also understands the industry of hospitality itself. So I've taken this question, which I used to hate, and now I love it.
So Brock, I hate to cut you off, but we're going to have to kind of wrap this up. We're only got 5 minutes. There's some questions that I think we need to discuss. Go to the next slide. It's, differentiators are on there. These are all of this stuff here is on that one sheeter that we gave you.
Exactly.
If you don't have one and you're brave enough to tell us that you lost it, we will send you another one. But you got to be brave enough to tell me that you lost it. This one sheeter is great for you to just look at right before you go on. This isn't a customer facing thing, right? This is for you. You're going in, you're going to be talking about acoustics. Let's give myself a little bit of a boost of confidence, right? So you want to, and then go to the next one, actually.
So you bring the relationship and collaboration with specifiers, designers, engineers, installers, whoever it may be, and the team around you backs you up. We help there it is. We help you carry the complexity, right? We make that backpack that you have to carry around a little bit lighter.
This is where we'll kind of wrap up this particular one. The biggest thing you want to do is leave your meetings with momentum, right? Like he talked about embedding the next yes, right? There needs to be a next step when you leave a meeting, whether it's sending in more samples or swatches or scheduling a consultation or whatever it might be. You want to leave there with momentum, with a task for you to accomplish. Every task they give you is an opportunity for you to prove that you can be trusted, right? And then the other thing that we want to make sure that you guys are aware of, this is really happening. Architects are pulling acoustics earlier into these projects. They're talking about it and thinking about it way before they ever did in years past. It is becoming something that every architect is, if they're not starting to understand acoustics and rely on acoustics and put acoustics in their projects, they're probably behind their peers and their coworkers. Because this is what's happening in the industry. It is becoming something that needs to be a must-have instead of a luxury or a compromise, right? So again, we appreciate you guys' time. We know it's valuable.